Ralph Adamo, and I couldn't be more delighted to have on today with us Burgandie Onekea. Burgandie is with Junior Achievement of Orange County and the Inland Empire, as well as Kern County and Bakersfield area. I'm waiting for an exciting conversation with Burgandie, and I want to give her an opportunity to tell you about her path that's led her to where she is today. She's got a very interesting background and pedigree in the nonprofit arena, and I love our folks in the nonprofit world doing wonderful things here in Orange County and all of Southern California. Burgandie, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I'd love to start off just kind of taking you back. I'm originally from Hawaii. And really, my work in the nonprofit world started when I was 18 years old, actually, right out of high school. But it's really ironic, because I always thought I would be a lawyer. That was a trajectory I was on originally, and I wanted to start off with sharing a little bit about who I am and where I got the passion for just helping people. And it really started, with my mom and her ability to be able to show impact. And I remember a time, and it takes me all the way back to this time where I was walking down this hallway, and it was a white hallway that seemed familiar to me. And as I was walking down the hallway, I saw at a distance a nurse that was waving me down. And as I got there, I could tell something was wrong. And this was the moment in time where I realized that my mom was in a place in her life that the news was not going to be good. And as I walked into this room, it was familiar because it was the same hospital that I was in, that same long white hallway that I was in when I gave birth to my son. It was the same white hallway that I was in when my mom, took me when I broke my arm. And now it was a whole different scenario. But this really solidified my heart for what I was already doing. I came into the nonprofit world by accident. Started my career, like I said, at 18 years old as a fundraiser for the March of Dimes. You guys might have heard of Walk America. That was the first event that I did. But as I kind of taking us back to the story of my mom and getting to the room, I realized the nurse was about to tell us something that was not going to be good. My mom had been getting some treatment, trying to figure out what was wrong for a couple of years at this point. And as I entered the room, my heart just sank because I saw my dad in there along with my aunt, and they were already crying. And I realized at this point in time, they shared that my mom's brain tumor had grown out of control. And this was a moment, a turning point for me that I started to really think about my life, my career, because really I got into it because of my mom. And I had the opportunity really to really reflect on family, what she was teaching me. And throughout the rest of this history of this story, my mom ended up, in hospice, and really these nurses and the doctors are the ones who really captivated, my heart as well as my family, and really took care of my mom. And I realized for the first time that the work that I was doing was more than just a job. It was something that I was going to stick to. I was going to continue to give because these nurses taught me something. These nurses taught me kindness. They gave with really without any expectations back. My mom ended up passing away about 8 months later. And again, I think the reflection of my mom's life and legacy led me to really want to imitate some of the things she did, but also I started to learn from some of the things that I got to witness firsthand with people who took care of my mom. And so it led me into this nonprofit world. I actually became the executive director eventually for the American Cancer Society. Just because I was a volunteer there, I was able to live out that passion, stayed in the health community, eventually made my way to the mainland, right? To the mainland, California. And, I think at this stage of my life, I was looking for, an opportunity. My kids were grown, and I had the opportunity to volunteer in their classrooms when they were little with junior achievement. So, fast forward, this nonprofit journey didn't end just with me being able to showcase my mom's legacy and have a passion for people and helping people. Now I was able to transition that to the future because I was able to see the impact that junior achievement had had on my kids as a volunteer. And now, fast forward, I oversee junior achievement in the work that I do, and I get to firsthand not just volunteer my time, but also help others be able to help the future leaders of tomorrow.
What a wonderful tapestry woven mom that impacts your life by impacting others, showing you kindness, showing others kindness, the nurses given without expecting anything in return, and then your children go into junior achievement, and that leads you to where you are today. What a
Absolutely.
what a wonderful path. Imagine that the dots are connected, aren't they?
It is all about connecting the dots, and a lot of it is connecting the dots even now. It doesn't end, right? Like, I think we are able to connect the dots in when we're young, and I think connecting the dots now at this stage in life, we're able to see how everything weaves together, really.
Yes. Now you're in a position of leadership and you're operating an organization. And when operating an organization, can you share with our audience how integrity has played a role and benefited the organization and the constituents of that organization in some way or manner that we might relate to or understand and learn from?
Yeah, absolutely. I really believe that integrity really aligns with transparency. Integrity and transparency in an organization like ours, that we are serving our community, but we're also reliant on our community dollars to be able to allow us to serve the students that we serve. And the schools that we serve. And I really believe that within integrity comes transparency, and it really is a language of trust, right? And for me, my philosophy really stems from partially my faith, and I think how I grew up, what I believe in. But transparency is such a huge part of integrity to me. I think how that's really played a really big part in the work that we do is, I you get trained to do these transactional things in college, right? Like, how to work with a client, or how to make a sales pitch or a marketing deck. And those things are very tactical things, and I realize with integrity comes really the non-transactional pieces that build and foster a relationship. And it really makes a big difference in an organization like ours, not just in my role, but in the roles of my entire team, also my board. I think being able to have trust within not just our circle, but our community. Are we going to spend their dollars wisely? Are we going to be people of our word and really follow through, not just with the mission that we believe in, but what we're saying that we're going to do, that we do it? Are we one way in a meeting and some way behind closed doors? I think those are questions that we might not ask ourselves directly, but it becomes a feeling of what people feel. And it is important that people feel your trust, your authenticity, and your integrity. And I really believe it comes from the ability to be authentic and transparent, and really being able to live out those things. I think it needs to be a philosophy of every leader, really.
Yes, absolutely. And speaking of leadership, Burgundy, how does integrity, you believe in your organization, how does it influence performance and morale when you reflect on that?
Again, I feel like it's a language of trust, right? Like I feel like integrity is a language that of trust within your staff team. So this is internal and external. I think the human behavior is based. Relationships are based on trust and building that. And I think what it's done for our team, and we have a great team. I wish I could introduce them all and them be here with me because I wouldn't be where I'm at without them. But I have a team that is full of integrity, but I think what that has really bred amongst our internal team, yes, our staff, but also our board, they're phenomenal, is it has really woven in trust to be able to really honestly take very healthy risk. I think being able to know and have confidence in one another as we might make decisions that we may differ in, but I think that again I keep going back to trust because it's such a big part of human behavior and relationship building. And I think what that's done for the morale of the team, I think people want to come to work, they work hard, but more than anything they imitate that with the teams that they have under them and being able to build that same rapport with their teams, as well as board members, as well as partners that we work with. And it really is, I always say Orange County is a very special place because these relationships are authentically built. And it reminds me a little bit of the islands because you don't get this in every place. I've lived in 3 different states, and I want to say that this integrity continues to build when we have authenticity, when there is a sense of vulnerability. And I continue to learn this and foster this not just within my team, but I think I learn it also from the circle that I've been able to have the privilege of being around because they've allowed that, whether they be a board member. I can name a few. Eric Goodman's definitely one of them. You guys always hear of Eric. I think he really does reflect a lot of the things I'm talking about, and I imitate those things because it is something of value, and it becomes a part of who we are.
Yes, absolutely. You have anchored this show with several important words and one phrase that has captivated me. Authenticity was one of the words, vulnerability, and then you coined for me the language of trust.
Mhm.
Integrity is the language of trust. I think you found the title to this show for sure.
Oh, fun.
Absolutely. Hidden right in there was a gem. Not in all the podcasts and all the discussions I've had, no one had expressed it that way. So, Burgundy, thank you for that. That was a wonderful insight, and hopefully an insight that folks will carry with them as they move forward after this podcast and after hearing the words of wisdom you shared so far. There'll be a lot more to come. I'm wondering, when you think about integrity, if we turn it on its head, has there been a time in your career or personal life where integrity was challenged and tested, with some of the counterparties not necessarily living up to that aspect?
You know, there definitely is. I mean, I think when I think about a time in my early career, thinking back, there was a time where a specific team member was, I think partially maybe out of fear or not wanting to be transparent about some of the information and numbers. And that instance, and when I think back to that time, it wasn't something that could go left be left unsaid or unaddressed, and it was something that we had to address because there was a discrepancy in what they were presenting, to our leadership and what was really going on behind the scenes, kind of what I was saying earlier, what we're doing inside internal must match what we're doing external. Like it shouldn't look different, you know? And when that happened, and I'm thinking back to my early 20s, I was a new leader of a department, and I realized that I needed to address this, really head on. And I learned very quickly that it had to be addressed right away. Like it couldn't be left for weeks to come. So we needed to make sure the timing was done immediately. That I went in with a heart of compassion, and with the heart to help. Yes, I'm going to address those things, but I didn't want the defenses to go up. Um, and I think that it really helped. And what it solidified for me as I addressed this issue of falsifying data, and that not being something that is accepted, and aligning what the consequences were going to look like, owning that, right? Like owning it as a person, right? Them owning it, but also me owning that as a department. We did eventually bring this forth. We were able to resolve everything. Disciplinary action was taken for a time. And what I think it solidified for me, though, about integrity is that it must be coupled with empathy. Like you can't have integrity and not have empathy, because you need them hand in hand when you're up against something that's very challenging, because not unfortunately not everybody lives by integrity.
Yes, you've given a soft layer to what can be um, a harsh process if we lack that empathy. That's
Right.
a wonderful insight of how to calibrate and balance the delivery of what might be consequences for lacking integrity, and how to do it in such a way that is more than just humane. It is civil, and it is kind, and it is gracious, which I think integrity bleeds into each of those things as well. I can hear your
Absolutely.
mom speaking through you with the
You
impact of
know, it's
kindness.
funny because I'm like I sound like my mom, and I another quick story is I always wanted to know what my superpower was, right? Like what am I made of, like. And for me it's always surrounded around faith. And but as a little girl, I used to go to this place called Sea Life Park. They used to have these little penguins running around all the time. And I don't know why I love penguins, but I loved them since I was little.
Who
It
doesn't?
it's probably my mom, but they do something. Like they do a lot of little kind acts to show that they care for each other. They give each other pebbles, and they collect these things. And my mom and I used to collect these pebbles on the ocean a lot. I lived in Hawaii. We were near a beach, and um, I think that energy around the story of the penguins and who they represent. I did a whole study on it for a high school project, and I realized, you know what? I think I want to make sure that I'm known for being kind. So kind of talking about what we just talked about, right? The empathy, um, kindness is huge in everything that we do. I don't know somebody who has integrity that's not a little kind too. You know what I mean? So I think that is something that is very meaningful to me.
Yes, that's a tremendous perspective. Again, one that's novel to this show. We have not had anyone touch on that emotional connection between kindness is almost inherent in having a commitment to integrity.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a natural outgrowth. It seems to me. I always think about you had used the word trust, and why is trust so important in a relationship? Because it creates a sense of predictability about your partner, your friend, your colleague, your coworker. Like
Yeah.
you trust them
Absolutely.
because you pretty much know the quantity that you're dealing with, and there's no surprises, especially to the downside.
Right. I think it also allows us to, I think just in business, whether you're in the banking business or you're in a nonprofit business, or you have a corporate business, we we all have to take risk at different times, and how can you trust your partners, right? Like, if you're going to take, are these risks healthy? And you can do a lot of data analysis, and those things are important, but if you don't trust the people you're working with, it's very hard to take a risk and know and have the confidence that it's healthy. And if we do it, we do it together. If this doesn't work, we do it together, you know.
Yes. Yeah, when you speak of the visions coming to my mind when you speak about trust and risk, was that Indiana Jones and stepping out, and there's no step there until you step, and
Oh,
knowing
that's
that you
true.
have to trust while taking that risk for the.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. Well, one of the questions, our younger audience and future influencers and leaders, and whether in the nonprofit or for-profit world, what advice would you have for them as we circle towards the close of the show? What advice would you leave the young folks with?
And when you're talking about young folks going into the industry, or young folks that are,
Coming up and thinking
progressing?
about their careers, whether it's in the nonprofit and for-profit, any place that question takes you, go with it.
Wonderful. Yeah, I think with the young folks, that you know, we're talking a lot about the power of integrity, the power of trust, the power of authenticity. But you can't do this without a tribe, really. Like your circle, like create, and so choose your circle wisely. I think as a young professional, when I was in my early 20s and I started in this career, and I knew I was passionate, and passion is one thing. Sometimes you go into an organization or into a field and you're not necessarily passionate, it's your job. But either way, I think what worked for me in my own career pathway was having the right people around me, and making sure that I looked for them. I think having that, you have examples. You want a mentor. I mean, Junior Achievement talks about mentorship with high school students. Because I'm 53 almost, it doesn't mean I don't need a mentor, right? So I think with these young folks that are entering their fields of profession, as they're exercising, integrity, they're learning authenticity, create a circle of those types of like-minded individuals that really, it's their philosophy. And if it's not, maybe that's not your right circle. And I think that is something you need to evaluate on an ongoing basis. So I've been very, very fortunate. I think some of these individuals don't even know they've mentored me. Some, I actually have a mentor. I have a coach. We have our. I'm working on my storytelling with Jay Golden, because I think he's amazing, and I'm not. It's an area of growth for me, and I was introduced to him by just listening to Charles Antiss's story, and connecting to the fact that his heart honestly bleeds who he is. It's it is a very much something that attracts people, and I don't even need a roof. I don't need a new roof, but I heard his story for the very first time, and I share it often because it really resonated with me when he talked about that moldy mattress, and he talked about that young little girl and the mom who answered the door. Like, I can envision being there. um, and then him deciding that I was going to make sure his heart to keep people safe and dry became a part of who he was, then became a part of what his company represented. And you see it in all of his staff. And I actually watched some of the staff meetings that he has, if he posts it, because I get motivated by them. I think something like that is so important. And so I think having a coach, and I decided, you know what, I want to learn what I might think I know what my superpower is, but there's some dots I need to still connect, and the way I want to deliver it. So I have people like Jay Golden. I shared about Eric Goodman. We are definitely good friends and colleagues, and we work a lot of areas hand in hand. But he really does mentor me without even knowing it. I think it's how people live their life, not what they say. Integrity is not what you say, it's what you do,
Yes.
and so these young folks, I think I spent a lot of time in this. You probably feel the passion because we mentor students, and I think mentorship is huge. So my advice: get a mentor, get two mentors, find areas of your life you want to grow in, find who inspires you, and imitate that, or ask them for support. And in your own personal growth. I think that those are things that have really helped me. I think not just professionally, but I think in the things I value. I value my relationship with God, right? Like I value my own faith, and I want to be somebody that represents what I'm putting forth well. I'm sure these young folks are going to figure out what they want to represent, as well.
Yes. Well, when you speak of mentors and coaches, sometimes they're formal arrangements and other times they're informal. And as you had intimated, sometimes those mentors didn't even know they were mentoring. You
Yeah.
were just observing and learning, and they were willing to share insights and their perspectives simply as their course of the day. But who you put into your circle is really important. And gosh, you've made that point here. You made a lot of wonderful points today, Burgundy. I'm really pleased with today's conversation. I know our audience is. If folks want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to reach out and get in touch with you or the organization?
Absolutely. I would just go to our website, jaoc.org, and you're able to, send us a message there. I'm also, we're big believers on LinkedIn. So definitely friend me on LinkedIn. We definitely would love to connect and, see how we can, get to know each other. I love having coffee. So we can also do that.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, Burgandie Onekea with Junior Achievement, Orange County, Inland Empire, Kern County, and Bakersfield. You are knocking it dead. Do all the good things you're doing. Continue to do it with your team. It's a blessing to have you on, a real honor to have you on. The power of integrity. Really loved our conversation today. And I know our audience is going to continue to enjoy it for many, many, many months to come. Thank you so much and take good care.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
The information presented in this program is provided for informational purposes only. The information is believed to be reliable, but no guarantee of accuracy is made or implied. Expressions of opinions are as of this date and are subject to change without notice. The information in this material is not intended as tax or legal advice. Please consult a legal or tax professional for specific information regarding your individual situation. This information does not constitute a solicitation or an offer to buy or sell any security. Investing involves risks, including possible loss of capital. Ralph Adamo is registered with the securities and are offered through Kovac Securities, Inc., member FINRA, SIPC, 6451 North Federal Highway, Suite 1201, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, 33308. Telephone number 954-782-4771. Investment advisory services are offered through Kovac Advisors, Inc. Integrity Wealth Management is not affiliated with Kovac Securities, Inc. or Kovac Advisors, Inc.